G'day folks, my name's Marcello Fabretti. Just going to keep this short. I basically had a bicep reattachment surgery about 10 months ago. Basically I snapped my distal bicep tendon and didn't get it seen to for about 2.5 months. And yeah, it was a pretty full-on experience. At the time I was working as a winemaker. It was the middle of vintage, so we were under the pump, and I had to move this step ladder with an intern over some hoses, and it was quite a large step ladder, so a step ladder you'd use to, carry buckets up and maybe make an addition to a 5,000 litre tank. So, made out of aluminium, it was still kind of weighty. Anyway, as we were moving over these couple of hoses on the ground, started to tip, and the intern, she was a girl and she didn't really have much strength in terms of upper body strength, and so I just tried to he-man it back into upright position, and just felt something pop like like bubble wrap really. And then followed immediately by searing pain. Immediately put it in a sling. Didn't really think, didn't even imagine it was the tendon at the time. Thought it was just at most like a muscle tear or something, and that it would get better. That happened early in the day. Didn't finish work until about 8 that evening. Again, it's the middle of vintage and we're getting thumped. And after work I basically went to the emergencies department at the local hospital in Margaret River, Western Australia, and there was a South African guy on, and he said, look, I can't see any bruising, so I don't think it's a tendon, it's probably just a muscle tear, and see how it goes, but to be sure I need to do an ultrasound. So I went back to work the next day. I had the sling still on, but yeah, it wasn't aching. It was just like if I moved my arm vigorously, if I was going down some stairs and I jarred my arm or something, it would hurt. But otherwise, I thought, oh well, this is just going to get better with time. But and it kind of did. The pain subsided. And even jarring the arm or moving it vigorously didn't really hurt as much as so I thought it was just getting better. About two months after, I just. So vintage is pretty much finished at this stage. Reds are off skins. Everything's being laid to bed. Interns are quitting and going off on their travels. Basically, I was doing a lot of barrel work at the time, so moving. Barrels are quite heavy even when they're empty, and I just didn't trust it. It's not that it hurt or anything. I just felt like I didn't have the same strength that I used to. So I went and got an ultrasound. Finally, got my GP to recommend an ultrasound guru, and he basically, he's another South African, goes, yeah, basically, dude, you've ruptured your tendon, your distal tendon. And he showed me, and he goes, see there, that's meant to be there, and all that scrunching there, that's basically your tendon that's receded up your bicep. So yeah, that was pretty tough, because of course the sooner as you go online, they say the sooner you get it reattached the better, and yeah, so immediately I had an appointment with an orthopedic surgeon, young guy, younger than me. So at first I was like, oh Jesus, I'm 42, but actually no, 43, Jesus, and he looked probably at most 36 or something, but he's probably been studying for 10 years. But I was like, oh shit. And this guy specialised in knees and hips and what have you. So again, I wasn't 100% sure, but he came well recommended. And yeah, he said, look, if you came to me 2 days later after the event, I could guarantee I'd be able to reattach it, and you'd be back to 90%, within 6 months. But because you've waited so long, because there's probably a lot of scar tissue and it's probably receded a lot further up the arm than ordinarily would have been the case after only a couple of days, yeah, I can't guarantee that I'd be able to reattach it. So I had an MRI, and he said, yeah, look, it's basically what we suspected. Again, I can't guarantee that I'll reattach it and that you'll get full range of motion. I might have to sort of wing it on the day, see what kind of stretch I can get on it. Yeah, so I kind of went into surgery. Thankfully, it was a workers' compensation claim, so it didn't cost me a cent, and I went to a private hospital. That said, he would have been able to do it at a public hospital within pretty much the same time frame anyway. So yeah, had it done. Woke up in like someone had driven over my arm in a fucking semi-trailer. It was pretty painful. Like within seconds of waking up from the anesthesia, and yeah, basically they gave me some heavy duty opiates, which made me pretty woozy, pretty nauseous. So I pretty much within a few days was on just paracetamol, and that pretty much did the trick. I just got paracetamol osteo, which I think it's a 600 milligram tablet, and that did the trick. Sometimes I would alternate with ibuprofen just to mix it up a bit, but yeah, I got over the pain relatively quickly. It's just that I had to have my arm in a sling for a month and a half, and that made it difficult to sleep. I've seen some guys online have had their arm even put in a cast, but yeah, I never had that, for better or worse. And yeah, and I immediately started seeing, probably after the first 4 weeks, I started seeing a physio, and she started trying to get the full range of motion. And yeah, I very quickly got there, which was a big relief. And then we started working on strength, but to be honest, probably should have done more of that. I felt a lot of pressure to get back to work. We were understaffed at the time when I had to go have my operation, so I felt kind of guilty. And I went back to work sooner than I probably should have, and consequently didn't continue with the therapy that I've also got 2 small kids, so I couldn't really be away as much as I wanted to, sort of focusing on me. But anyway, I'll show you the scar. I've got this dirty big scar. Not sure if you can see it in this light, but basically it's about 14-15 centimeters long, possibly more. Runs from a couple of probably about 2 inches up there on my bicep and runs all the way down my forearm. Yeah, it's a doozy. Ordinarily it would just be a thin kind of lateral incision, I think. This one, he had to sort of open me up like a banana, I suppose. Get in there and sort of cut the tendon away from all the scar tissue and what have you. Had a lot of sort of nerve tingling in my forearm, right up across the top of my hand, which was pretty annoying. That was probably more annoying than the pain. And it took a long time to heal up, but I think that's normal for nerve damage. He basically said he had to move the nerve to the side whilst he worked, and they're kind of delicate, I imagine. Anyway, so yeah, about 10 or 11 months since I did the damage and had the operation, and yeah, I still don't 100% trust it, and I'm always scared I'm gonna damage it again. They can re-rupture apparently, but so can the good one, I suppose. So yeah, apparently it happens to like between 2 and 4 individuals out of 100,000. So it's a pretty rare event. So that's like 1 person in a stadium. And I'm not a meathead. I'm not a gym junkie or anything. I don't bust out reps. So yeah, I don't think I had any nutrition issues at the time. I was eating a lot and eating often and eating varied food, I think. So yeah, it was just one of those things. My arm was at full extension when I tried to I guess to correct the fall of the step ladder, and I think that was the case. When your arm's at full extension, your muscle doesn't quite cushion the force, and so my tendon took all of it and just went pop. Anywho, hope it doesn't happen to you, and if it does happen to you, keep in mind there is life after the operation. You'll get better, and yeah, good luck.